Hey everybody, Pastor Vern with a daily update for July 17th, 2020, as we continue on with our talk a little bit about the books of the Bible and the Bible itself. We're not going to go through every book, but we're kind of doing the first three in order as we move into Leviticus. Not a book that we tout a lot, not a book that we spend a lot of time in for worship purposes, which is kind of ironic because the book of Leviticus um, really has a lot of worship concepts too. In fact, it's where the priests have developed some patterns of worship. This book will wear you out when you read it, though. It's got a lot of symbolism in them. It's got a lot of rhetoric in it. It's got a lot of references to things that we don't commonly reference, that you kind of got to do some work on if you're going to fully appreciate it. But a lot about the book has to do with the laws of the priests and how some of that was developed. A lot of the schemes for worship, and it's valuable in that realm. Um, the priesthood was a sacrifice in many ways in that time, and so this is what really sets the scale for that. The priesthood, the tribe of Levi, where we get Leviticus, was the priestly tribe set aside from the other 11 tribes of Israel. They were the ones that were to conduct worship. They were the ones to take care of the temple. They were the ones to do those kind of activities and work. And but the sacrifice was that they were the only tribe that didn't receive any property. They didn't receive a land of their own in order to sustain themselves. They were sustained by those who came to the temple to worship, and that was really their source of income, their source of subsistence, offerings that came to the temple. And so they did give up that I don't know if it's a right, gave up that privilege of owning property, of making their own way in so many ways. And even though we don't have a lot of information about that, there is an assumption that every time the people of Israel were in a place where they were suffering financially, food insecure, or those things, that the priests suffered too, because they were to collect a certain percentage of what the wealth of the community dedicated to God to sustain them and to keep the temple going. And when those funds kind of dried up, they really didn't have any other resources to go out to sustain themselves. So the book of Leviticus teaches us some lessons about the priestly tribes and what people who have been called into that kind of work for God did expect and could expect to some extent all through the history of God's relationship with these people. We're going to get back at some of this next week with the Bible. We're going to be doing a little skipping around next week in the books that we're going to talk about and the total concepts. We talked about the Bible, of how it was structured as books with chapters, that it was not one book, it was several books put together, 66 in fact, in the Bible that we use in our scenario, which does differ a little bit from some other scenarios. We did look at all those kind of things, and next week we're going to look a little bit at the structure of the Old Testament and the New Testament, how they compare and how they differ. And I think you'll find some interesting things to think about there too. All right, well, everybody have a good weekend. Take good care of yourself. Watch out for others and be safe. If you're comfortable with coming to worship, well, we'll see you then. If not, join us online with our online worship, and may you have a blessed weekend. Bye, everybody.